Hey guys, welcome to another video. I just got through watching a video on Dane Callaway's channel. If you don't know who Dane Callaway is, he's a historian, an I forgot the name that he gave himself, but he's a historian. He likes to reveal the truths about the indigenous people of Americas. He's not a pan-African kind of guy. He's a guy that uses data, uses documentation, and he gives you history in ways that you have never gotten it before. And essentially his MO, or his modus of operandi, I should say, is centered on liberating the minds of quote-unquote black, I hate to use the word black people because we're not black, but melanated people, the people here that have colored skin. His agenda is not even an agenda. His duty, as he likes to say, that's attributed to his ancestors, is to reveal the truth to his people. And he's been doing a great job of it, because many people have started to come to the understanding that not all people who are here who have melanated skin come from Africa. There are other people here in this country who had lands that were taken away from them. So Dane Callaway is a channel that I am subscribed to, and I recently saw a post that a video that he uploaded. He was talking about the interview that Shannon Sharpe had with Amanda Seales, I believe that's her name, Amanda Seales. And yeah, I got distracted there for a second. With Amanda Seales, and he was talking about how Shannon Sharpe was trying to push a particular narrative. If you watch the video on Dane Callaway's channel, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have the technology to do that. You know, people have the tech to show clips of a video and comment on it. I wish I could do that. I'm driving right now, so you're gonna have to just look at his video and to see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna try to break this down to allow you guys to understand what's going on. I'm gonna give you guys my take. I'm not as well versed in history as Dane Callaway is, so he definitely has a lot more insight than I do. Definitely does. That's his MO. That's his full-time job, is to do history. That's not my full-time job. I listen to him. That's how much I respect the knowledge that he brings forward from his channel. But there's certain things that he said in regards to the breakdown of Amanda Seales and Shannon Sharpe. During the interview, the clip that Dane Callaway took out, it was a clip that Shannon Sharpe was talking to Amanda Seales, and he asked her, what were you getting in trouble a lot for in school? And he was like, was it for talking a lot or being disruptive or that yada yada yada? And Amanda Seales was like, no, it was not for that. It was for correcting the teacher. It was for me correcting the teacher. And so Shannon Sharpe sort of had a response that Amanda Seales did not like. His response was like, well, because Amanda Seales' version of the story is that, look, I'm in the classroom. This teacher was racist. I'm in Florida in the 80s, all right? Racism was rampant. I'm a melanated girl, AKA what you guys like to say, black girl. I'm a melanated girl, and I'm correcting the teacher on something that the teacher is teaching, and the teacher is white. The teacher is teaching about history, but she's teaching the false information. She's not teaching the true information about the indigenous people of the land and how they got their lands taken away from them. So when I correct her, she takes offense to that, and that's what my parent conference was about. So Amanda Seales was telling Shannon Sharpe that she was called to the office for a parent conference, and it wasn't that she was a bad child in the classroom. The teacher was taking it as, this student in my classroom is disrespecting me by correcting me. That's the way Shannon Sharpe took it. Shannon Sharpe took it as, she's an adult, the teacher's the adult, you're the student. Mind you, she's in high school at this time. Amanda Seales is in high school. She's the student, the teacher's the adult. And in the mind of Shannon Sharpe, he's like, well, maybe it's not racism. Maybe it's the teacher is taking it as disrespectful because you are correcting her. Because how I grew up and how I was raised, this is what Shannon Sharpe was saying, I was raised in a way where when adults are talking, you don't say anything, and you don't correct adults. You don't do this, you don't do that. So Amanda Seales, if you look at the video clip from Dane Callaway's channel, or you can watch the actual whole interview if you want to. But of course, the whole interview is longer if you're watching on Club Shay Shay's channel. It's much longer. But if you watch it on Dane Callaway's channel, you'll see there that Amanda Seales starts to show some visible frustration on her face. Her nonverbal cues were showing that, hey, I don't like the direction of this questioning. He's telling me, and this is me paraphrasing, this is me just all speculation of what I think is going on in her head. This guy's trying to tell me what I experienced? How dare him? So she's giving Shannon Sharpe this look like, really? And so she tried to explain to him again that, no, this was about race. This has nothing to do with me talking back to the teacher or being disrespectful. I'm in a classroom. Wrong information is being taught. I respectfully corrected the teacher. I didn't do anything wrong. So Dane Callaway, inserts his analysis on the situation. And I agree with Dane Callaway on that, in that regard, that just because you have an adult teacher in the classroom does not mean that you have to accept lies that are being taught to you, especially when you know that they are lies being taught to you. Just because you are a student, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to receive lies as a form of you being educated. Everyone deserves to be enlightened, and everyone deserves to know the truth, especially when you're sitting in a classroom in a place that you're supposed to be getting educated. You're supposed to be getting taught truth. So Dane Callaway is saying, no, there's nothing wrong with what Amanda did. But Shannon Sharpe is saying, well, the teacher, and Shannon Sharpe is more so leaning on the side of the adult here. He's saying, no, well, the teacher is viewing what you're doing is wrong, not because the teacher doesn't like you because you're melanated or black. It's because you're correcting them, and then they take that as offensive because you're correcting them. They're the teacher. But Amanda Seales didn't look at it that way. And so Dane Callaway plays another clip, and then of course, I talked about Amanda Seales getting visibly frustrated. So she actually does. She gives Shannon Sharpe the silent treatment. She doesn't even answer anything else. She kind of just sits there and looks at him, like gives him this look like, really, bro, like really. And so Dane Callaway, he chimes in. He says, yeah, Shannon Sharpe is a beta male, and the justification for Dane Callaway calling Shannon Sharpe a beta male is because Shannon Sharpe, he likes to just take information from authority without questioning anything. And Dane Callaway gave an example of how he was disrespected on Undisputed, and he took it and ate it because he views that type of behavior from Shannon Sharpe as being a beta male, a male that's not that doesn't question authority. There's nothing disrespectful about questioning authority, especially if you feel that the authoritative figure is leading you in the wrong path. See, just because you're a student does not mean you don't have a voice. Okay? So this is me now. This is me talking. This is not Dane. And that goes back to that slave mentality concept that Shannon Sharpe has very well. He's a high class coon. And it's okay. I don't mean that. I mean that with all due respect. And you're probably looking at me, how can that be respectful? But it's respectful because I'm being accurate in my assessment of Shannon Sharpe. He's a high class coon. Because Dane Callaway was saying that Shannon Sharpe is pushing the narrative. I don't even think he goes that deep, Dane. I don't think he goes that deep, Dane. I believe that Shannon Sharpe believes what he believes. And he thinks that what he thinks is truth. For instance, when Amanda Seales talked about the indigenous people of America getting their lands taken from them, the indigenous people being people like with my skin color, getting their lands taken from them, Shannon Sharpe didn't want to talk about that. What he wanted to pivot off of that and go back to the incident of, well, you're correcting an adult. That's the problem. Amanda Seales is like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to an idiot. I'm trying to get to a root issue, and you're talking about the idea of me correcting a teacher. That's why she took offense to it. No, I'm trying to eradicate and eliminate the falsities and the false truths. I call them false truths because they're false, but they're being painted as truths. I know the truth about what happened to the people of this land, and the teacher is saying something that's contrary to what I know is true. So I feel compelled to say something. Shannon Sharpe, on the other hand, to the contrary perspective of Amanda Seales, he holds the notion that you're supposed to just shut your mouth and be quiet, because when an adult talks, you just accept it. No. That's why Amanda Seales was looking at Shannon Sharpe with disgust. It was like, oh my God. Like, if there's nothing more unattractive to a woman to be next to a man that has no kahunas, like no balls. Like, it doesn't mean you have to be belligerent and be disrespectful or vulgar in any sense or any stretch of the imagination. You can question authority. You can ask a question. You can say, hey, this is not true because this is what happened. And if the teacher takes offense to that, you can take offense to it. But it doesn't mean that you have to now target me and then send me to the office and put a big target on my back and view me in a way that's less than the way you would view anybody else in the classroom. That's the point that Amanda Seales was trying to make. Like, it was beyond just me correcting her. It was a large percentage of race and hate, racism, which is hating people because of their race. There was an element of racism inserted in her approach and her reactions to me and the way she treated me. That's what Amanda Seales was trying to get across. So when Dane Callaway is saying that, Shannon Sharpe has a narrative that he's trying to push, I don't think it gets that deep. Shannon Sharpe actually believes what he believes is true. I'm going to tell you why, Dane. Because his master pays his salary. So he's gotten to where he's gotten in life. Yeah, he's a hard worker. I'm not taking any of that away from him. His accomplishments on the football field is all him. His athletic prowess is all him. His ability to entertain, it's all him. But there's levels to this. You don't get to be top of anything if the controllers don't allow you to get there. Dane, I don't think he's given a script. All right, I don't think he's given a script. They say, okay, stick to this narrative, Shannon Sharpe. Okay, I don't think so. I really believe that in his delusional mind, respectfully, in his delusional mind, I believe that he thinks that the reason why I've gotten far is because I have toted the company line and said the things that were right. Because I'm right, that's why I'm successful. For an example, all the social issue positions that Shannon Sharpe agrees with, and all the black slavery narrative that he likes to spit out, it goes with exactly what you always talk about, Dane. Because that's the narrative they want to push. They want to push that all black people were slaves. We came from Africa as slaves. 400 years of slavery. Slave boats crossed over the Atlantic and it came to America. That's the narrative, right? That's what most people believe, Dane. Shannon Sharpe believes that. I don't think he knows better. See, when you say, and I could be wrong, Dane, when you say he's trying to push a narrative, it has a bit of premeditative intent behind it. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. It means that he knows the truth, but he wants to push a narrative. No, you're giving Shannon Sharpe too much credit. I don't think he knows, and I don't really think he cares. See, that's the part that's more insulting to me, because when Amanda Seales mentioned the indigenous part, I would think as an interviewer, that's one thing I like about Joe Rogan. That's the difference between Joe Rogan, an experienced podcaster, and Shannon Sharpe. Yeah, you can allow people to speak their piece. You can give people their quote-unquote safe space to talk. But there has to come a point when somebody says something that's contrary to the mainstream narrative, or contrary to what most people believe, or contrary to the status quo. I would think, just from a layman's perspective, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. I would just think that naturally, in the form and the flow of the conversation in an organic manner, I would think that Shannon Sharpe would be like, oh, indigenous people, tell me more about that. What happened? Because we've all been lied to. And then you know that. We've all been lied to. Everyone has their moment of awakening. And I believe that in order to be a well-rounded person, especially in terms of your ability to think critically and to expand your horizons, I really believe that you have to take information from all facets. Meaning that if you were taught one thing and you hold on to that truth to be the only truth, you have to be able to expand that, to break out of that mold and break out of those shackles, right? And say, you know what? I'm not bound to this information. I'm secure enough in my intellect, and I'm secure enough in who I am, that I'm not afraid to hear something new. And when I hear something new, I'm open-minded enough to consider it and cross-contextualize that information with what I was taught. And if that doesn't make sense, then I know that what I was taught was a lie. Shannon Sharpe doesn't want to do that. And I don't think that Shannon Sharpe cares. What he cares about is money. So Dane, when you say that he's trying to push a narrative, I don't even think he cares about the narrative. He just cares about the money. He knows that he's getting money. He's been put in a position, all right, to have his channel do what it's doing. Okay? That's not by coincidence, folks. It's not because he's just the hardest worker. Like, the controllers are gonna allow who they want to be at the top, because if you're toting a message that's gonna be controversial to their agenda, then you're gonna get your plug pulled quickly. So, in a sense, maybe I'm misreading you, Dane. Yes, he's pushing a narrative, but it's not his narrative. He's pushing the narrative of his controllers. But I don't think that there's some like boardroom meetings that they have and they tell him, hey, Shannon Sharpe, push this narrative. I believe that in his heart of hearts, Shannon Sharpe's heart of hearts, he really believes that I am where I am because I've spoken the truth. And anybody else who's saying something that's contrary to what I believe and what most people believe, then those people are just hating, because that's the popular term nowadays. They're hating. They're either hating or they've been misinformed. They're finding things on the internet that are not true. But we all came from Africa as slaves, and the transatlantic slave trade was real, and yeah, the slave story as we were told has to be true, because if it wasn't true, then people would come at me more. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I must be doing something right. And even if I'm wrong, why would I go against that and lose my fun and lose my endorsements and lose the people who promote me? Nah, I don't care. That's exactly why Shannon Sharpe had that response. I'm trying to tell you guys, even me with the things that I think that I know, Dane, if I hear something that's opposite of what I was told or taught, like, let's say for instance, I'll listen to your channel, right? And I hear what you say, and I believe it to be true. And let's say I'm just going through Google, or I don't know, I see a lecture online, and someone is teaching something that's kind of contrary to what you taught. I'm not gonna clip the person off. I'm gonna look for cracks in their argument, because I know your research is solid. I'm gonna look for cracks in their argument. If I don't see any, then I'm gonna start to consider what they said. Then I'm gonna cross-contextualize what they said with what you say, Dane, and then I'm gonna pick apart both arguments, and then I'm gonna formulate my own judgment. Okay? And that's all you ask us to do. You always say, I'm here to make you think. Shannon Sharpe doesn't want to think. So in a sense, in an unhanded, backhanded way, he is pushing a narrative, but he's not smart enough to push his own narrative. He's just continuing to say the same things that everybody says because he's about the dollar, which is why the love of money is the root of all evil. It will cause good men to shut off truth in order to keep getting paid by their master, by their massa. So that's why he's a good coon. He's a good coon. He's a field Negro and a house Negro. He's played both sides. He played on the football field, and now he's at home, comfortable, getting paid. Why will I disrupt the money cart? Why will I say anything that goes contrary to what I've always said? So he's not going to do that. So that's why I saw the disgust on Amanda Seales' face. Now, moving along. The one thing I love about Dane, he's very objective. Not only does he criticize Shannon Sharpe for trying to push a narrative and cut off Amanda Seales and not even get into the topic about how indigenous people had their land stolen from them, he also criticizes Amanda Seales. And this is what I want to tell you guys, and this is really what drove me, what's compelling me to make this video. Every time we see people in the limelight, all right, you have elitists in terms of elite people who have the money and the wealth, and people who have the money to affect legislation, lobbyists, bankers. We know those people exist out there. The rules don't apply to them. They live in a different world. All right, they are in a world of utopia. They are in their heaven right now, physical heaven. We people down here, we have to create our mental heaven in here because the world around us is crazy. So we have to create our mental heaven in our brains, in the temple, where heaven resides, between the temple. So there's surface information that's out there. You have the elites in the world that run things. You also have the elites in entertainment. Both are functioning underneath the same principles, meaning that you don't get to where you're at without a bit of corruption and a bit of I don't want to use the word, but I have to. A little bit of selling out. You have to sell out just a little bit. Not too much, because if you sell out too much, then you get exposed for being a sellout. But you got to sell out just a tiny tidbit. So Dane Callaway starts to expose Amanda Seales' story. She says that she was in Florida in the 80s, where it was a lot of racism. You can't tell Dane things without him. He's going to do his research. He's like, no, you were not in high school in the 80s. As a matter of fact, you didn't even go to school in the 80s. You were there in Florida in the 90s. So number one, that was inaccurate. So he exposed her for being inaccurate, because you're supposed to know what year you went to school. That's not a mistake. That's a deliberate lie. And I don't use that word often, but a lie is a lie when you know better. Like, it's not like she can't remember. Everyone knows what year they went to high school. So she talked about racism being rampant. It's not true. Dane was like, well, no, racism wasn't that bad, because when you went to the principal's office, the principal was a black person. Yeah, your teacher was white, but the principal was black. All right? Why would the principal, during the time of racism, even though her school was predominantly white, this is Dane, this is me paraphrasing here. And Dane is like, even though your school was predominantly white, why would black people even get the opportunity to even be there? You were there. A black principal was there. It wouldn't be that bad. And Dane is not saying that racism does not exist or did not exist, but what he's saying is that the narrative that Amanda Seales is pushing with her story on Shannon Sharpe's podcast is that she was in a school that was riddled with hostile racism. And Dane is like, nah, it wasn't so. It wasn't so. Then Dane goes deeper. Starts to address her classifications as a citizen, as a dual citizen. And this is something you guys have to understand. He explains it much better than I can. So go to his channel and look up Dane Callaway's channel. If you have dual citizenship, no matter your skin color, you're not going to be considered black. You're going to be considered white, because white and black is not about your skin color. It's a classification. It's a political classification. It's an identification of what you fall under. Okay? So the point that Dane is making is that your skin, the mother, they're from the Caribbeans, and the mother is South American. Well, we call it South America, but I think the name that Dane gave was not South America, but he called it something else. I forgot. We call it South America, but it's called something else. And he's saying that just looking at Amanda Seales, she looks like a normal black girl, a black person. But Dane is inserting a little bit, not a little bit, but he's inserting truths to make us think. He's saying, okay, yeah, you have the skin complexion, but you also have the connection due to your identification as a white person, because you have dual citizenship. People who have dual citizenship are not classified as black. All right? You say, what's the point of that? Well, the point he's making is that she's always been on the side of the favored. She was with Disney, and this is him saying this. This is not me. This is his research. She was with Disney or Nickelodeon at the age of 11 or 12. She's always been in media. She's had a somewhat privileged life. To try to play the card of I've been dealing with the racism in my life, like Dane is like, don't do that. Don't do that. You're being disingenuous. All right? So the point I'm making with that is this. You can't trust anybody. Because because when I watched the video, I didn't even think Dane was going to address anything that Amanda Seales did. I thought that he was painting Amanda Seales as a victim in that situation, but Dane doesn't do that. Dane is very objective down the middle. He's like, no, I see where Shannon Sharpe is wrong, but I'm going to show you where Amanda Seales is wrong as well. They're both wrong. Shannon Sharpe for allegedly trying to push a narrative and cutting Amanda Seales off and not even delving into the truth that she's talking about, because she does reveal truth. But just because a person reveals truth does not mean that everything they say is truth. Because she revealed the truth about the indigenous lands being stolen from the people who were here in America first by the white criminals that came here from Europe. She's factual about that. But what she's not factual about is about what year she went to school. She's not factual about the state of the racial state of that state, Florida, of that high school, trying to play the card of I was in a hostile, racist place. That's not true. So here again, we have two melanated people on television. One being a coon of the highest order that's going to do what he needs to do to get paid. He didn't care about truth. He didn't give a damn about truth. All he cares about is his bottom line, and which is fine. Do what you do. I can't sleep at night doing that. I have a conscience. When you are aware, you do better. Then you have another somewhat of a malicious Negro. I'm not gonna call her a coon. A malicious Negro. She's malicious because she's using, because she's not identified as black. Okay? I know to us doesn't mean it's not a big deal. Well, she looks black, that's fine. But she has dual citizenship. She's considered white. So she could be used as an agent. And this is what Dane Callaway tries to teach us. There's certain people that look like us that can be used as agents. She's one of them. She's trying to play the race card even though she hasn't been in the plight, in the true plight. The false plight that she's trying to paint. The narrative of how Florida was deeply racist in the 80s, even though she didn't go to school there in the 80s. She went there in the 90s. Okay? So you have lies on both ends. And I would argue and say that what Amanda Seales did is more, I don't know, it's more treacherous to me because it's like deliberate, intentional lying, whereas with Shannon Sharpe, he doesn't give a damn about the truth. Both are bad, but it's almost like I'm picking the worst of two evils here. So Dane, man, good job with your stuff, man. Big ups. I hope one day you get to like 1 million views, man. More people need to view your channel. More melanated people need to view your channel. I'm a native Nigerian at heart, and both my parents are Nigerian, but I like your channel because it reveals truth. And I like anybody that reveals truth. And I used to always question like the idea of like, how did all black people came from Africa as slaves? Really? I don't know. That never really sat well with me until I started to watch your channel and you start to reveal things. And I thank you for what you do, but I just wanted to give my spin on that Shannon Sharpe stuff, man. And I do agree with a lot of things that you said. I just wanted to put my own take on it. Again, thank you guys for listening, and I'll be back with another video later. All right, take care. Bye.